We've been counting them down all week, ranking every SummerSlam from worst to best. And it's about time we find out which SummerSlam is the greatest of all time. It's SummerSlam Sunday! What is going on out there, guys? It's your boy Tommy on the spot for Watch Along Wrestling. We have made it. Our top 10 SummerSlams of all time. We've ranked them all from 31 all the way down to 10. And we finally have your top 10, which we're going to get to in this video. But before we do, if this is your first time, you're just sitting around, you're getting ready for SummerSlam, you want a little SummerSlam hype, and you happen to type in, greatest SummerSlams of all time, and here we go. You found Watch Along Wrestling. Thanks so much for checking us out, and make sure you do leave a big thumbs up and subscribe. If you're a returning subscriber, you know we're super tight, and I think the world of you, and it's great to see you once again. All right, here we go. Top 10 SummerSlams. No more BS. Let's jump into it. Number 10, SummerSlam 2004. All right, I'll be honest. If you took this SummerSlam, this event, and you moved it into an idle arena, it probably wouldn't be ranked this high on the countdown. But this SummerSlam in front of that Toronto, Canada crowd, it was just awesome. This crowd was straight fire, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so excited that SummerSlam tonight is taking place in Toronto, Canada, because that crowd is just awesome. Such an underrated wrestling crowd. They cheer whoever the hell they want, they boo whoever the hell they want, but they're just invested in everything, and it's great. And that was the case back in 2004. The main event of this show, Chris Benoit, at the end now of his historic title reign, he obviously rose to the ranks, defeating Triple H and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 20, had finally become the man in WWE, and here he is defending the championship against the young upstart Randy Orton. Probably a little early for Randy to be getting the title here, but WWE was not happy with Brock Lesnar, and they didn't want him to be in the record books as the youngest champ, so here we are, 24-year-old Randy Orton on top of the world, no maturity whatsoever. He gets the title here, and the crowd is so into him. The crowd is so into Randy, despite the fact that Benoit's Canadian. They were all about it. A really good match to close the show. Obviously, this tied into tomorrow's Raw, the next night's Raw, rather, where Triple H and Batista turn on Randy Orton, kick him out of Evolution, and he has a pretty lame babyface run. But elsewhere on this show, this is the show where Edge comes out, his big run, he's trying to run through all of Evolution, he's going against Jericho and Batista, and in his hometown of Toronto, they boo him flat out of the building, leading to his big heel turn. Eddie Guerrero and Kurt Angle have a great match. I mean, how could those guys not? Kane and Matt Hardy have an underrated match, and this is at the peak of the Eugene era. That's right, Eugene, a brand new character WWE had. They strapped the rocket to that ass, brought him all the way up the ranks. He's in a feud with Triple H on this show, and it actually makes a lot of sense. The build for it was actually pretty good. So SummerSlam 2004 kicks off our top 10. Number 9, SummerSlam 2001. Summer of 2001 is a time that WWE really gets a lot of criticism for blowing the Invasion storyline, and really it makes a lot of sense because they left a lot of money on the table because there was so much more they could have done with the invasion of WCW and even the incorporation of ECW into this storyline. It really kind of blew it in about 4 or 5 months. That said, the SummerSlam that takes place in the middle of this invasion is actually incredible. It's one of the best SummerSlams of all time, at least in my opinion. You have a ton of really good stuff on this show. Take, for example, the opening contest. One of my favorite opening matches in SummerSlam history, Lance Storm versus Edge. They kill it. They just come out there, and it's like a match you wouldn't even necessarily expect to absolutely love, but it was great. Main event of the show, The Rock versus Booker T. They were kind of doing, Booker T had done The Rock's finisher, and they were kind of doing that, so that was fun to kind of play off of, and a bit of a dream match. You have a match on this show between Kurt Angle and Stone Cold Steve Austin that I say to this day is second only to the Shawn Michaels Mankind In Your House Mind Games main event of matches that end with a non-finish. It's that good. I mean, the match is incredible. Probably a top 5 SummerSlam match of all time, and if it has a finish, it might even be number 1. It's a great stuff. Also, RVD versus Jeff Hardy in a ladder match. Suffice to say, SummerSlam 2001 was awesome. Number 8, SummerSlam 1991. The match made in heaven and the match made in hell. A great show here at SummerSlam 91. It's unfortunately probably remembered as the SummerSlam where the Ultimate Warrior holds up Vince McMahon for money, goes out, has the match made in hell. him and Hulk Hogan against Sergeant Slaughter, Colonel Mustafa, and General Adnan, and then comes back from that match and gets fired immediately from WWE. That said, though, there's so much on this show. Yes, you had a wedding that closed the show, which sounds a little weird, but because of how much everyone loved the Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth, it worked. It's the first show that I honestly remember being aware that it was going on live, as my father was at the show. It actually called me from a payphone at Madison Square Garden during the show so I could hear the $1 Million Man's entrance music as it was happening. There's even the opening contest, the first match is on one side, yes, you have Power and Glory and the Warlord, but the other side is British Bulldog, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich. Those three greats all on one team in the opening six-man. Aside from that, Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect, the top 5 SummerSlam match of all time. They just absolutely tear it up. Perfect does a great job in putting Bret Hart over as a single star. Elsewhere on the card, you have the Jailhouse match that kind of intertwines throughout the whole entire show with a lot of really fun skits between the Mountie and the Big Boss Man. You have that fun deal where the Legion of Doom face off against the Nasty Boys, and it was like a pillar in the SummerSlam kind of intro there with Hawk clotheslining one of the Nasties, and he kind of went through that SummerSlam sign. There's so many iconic moments from this SummerSlam. My only qualm is that they didn't put the after party of the wedding on the actual SummerSlam, because that was really cool, especially when Jake Roberts and Undertaker show up and ruin the fun. Number 7, SummerSlam 2014. Suplex, repeat. Suplex, repeat. Over and over again. I'll never forget it. One of the most fun main events of all time, and really the end of the John Cena as the face of the WWE era. John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar absolutely mauls John Cena, hitting him with suplex after suplex. The birth of Suplex City, that iconic moment where Cena gets in a little offense and then Lesnar sits up and just laughs in his face. It's an incredible match, and it's just surreal because at the time, this was before the Big Match John era, where Cena went and did that whole great run with the US title. Cena was just straight up beating dudes in the main events. It would be like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. I think Cena's going to lose here, and Cena would win. It was always Cena would win. And here comes Brock Lesnar, and he's just defeated The Undertaker, ended his streak, and I think a lot of people thought he was going to lose, and instead it propelled Brock Lesnar into the main event picture from this match that he is still in today. Yes, the streak was there, but this one, in my opinion, pushed him to the stratosphere. And thank God this match wasn't the match they originally had planned, which was Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan, because I think if that was the match, this SummerSlam might be all the way in the front of our list in the late 20s on the countdown. Elsewhere on the card, a really fun, get ready for this, Brie Bella versus Stephanie McMahon match. If you think I'm lying, go back and watch this match. It's so much better than it has any right to be. It was cool to see Brie Bella closing episodes of Raw going into this, and then a really fun turn there with Nikki Bella turning on Brie Bella and aligning with the Authority, helping Stephanie McMahon to get the win. Roman Reigns on this show takes on Randy Orton in the co-main event, and the crowd actually loves him at the time. If you can believe that, crowd is super behind him. Also, you have Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. They have a match on the show, and it really feels like this show is the start of almost that new era that we know today here in WWE. Number 6, SummerSlam 1992. Hopefully my friends over in the UK don't hate me for this, but for me, this SummerSlam falls just outside of the top 5 here at number 6. It is a fantastic show, such a fun atmosphere. It takes place obviously at Wembley Stadium in the UK. I do not understand, after they had such an exciting time with this show, I don't know why they've never returned for a pay-per-view to Wembley Stadium. WrestleMania needs to be held there. I've been saying it forever. If you've never seen the show, go back and watch it just for the aura. It's I think second only to WrestleMania 3 of holy cow, look how many people are here and look how excited they are for everything. And WWE does the right decision here. They moved Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog for the Intercontinental title all the way to the end, to the main event. Bulldog was a guy who was seen here in the United States as an upper mid-card great act who was totally viable to be in main events, but in England, he was a god. He was the wrestling equivalent of Bruno Sammartino. They absolutely loved him, and WWE knew this, and they put him in the main event in a show in Wembley Stadium, and it's just this great moment where him and Bret tear it up. There's even rumors that, Bret Hart says that Bulldog completely forgot about everything he was supposed to do during the match, and Bret led him through it. And if that is the case, then Bret deserves a tip of the cap for a work of art, because it's awesome. And it's a match that really is Davey Boy Smith's crowning achievement in his entire wrestling career, and a match that I think also showed that Bret Hart can carry a main event of a major pay-per-view here, because this is his first one, and they just knocked it out of the park. Elsewhere on the card, there's some other good stuff that's on the card. I think Rick Martel, Shawn Michaels have a fun match. Warrior and Savage is a good match for the title, but it's a non-finish, which is kind of lame. But the other thing I remember about this match, something I always love, the Road Warriors coming in with the dummy sitting on the front of their motorcycle, going down that long ramp in Wembley Stadium, that iconic moment, all on the motorcycles, three badass dudes coming down, just looking like they're ready to kick some ass, and that long ramp, that long entranceway, really, really good stuff. Number 5, SummerSlam 1997. So here we are, the top 5 SummerSlams, and we kick it off with one of my absolute favorites, SummerSlam 1997, a show that to this day I'm bummed I didn't get to go to. Such a good show, right at the peak of the Hart Foundation, the new Hart Foundation, led by Bret Hart with the British Bulldog, Jimmy Anvil Neidhart, Brian Pillman, Owen Hart, all right there on the show. And everything about this show, for the most part, was all about the Hart Foundation. There was a stipulation for every single one of their matches that were intertwined just really, really well. In Brian Pillman's match, it was if he lost to Goldust, he had to wear a dress for 30 days, which he did lose. I think it was a British Bulldog. If he lost to Ken Shamrock, he'd have to eat some dog food. They did a deal where if Owen Hart beat Stone Cold would have to kiss his ass. And if Bret Hart were to lose, then he'd never be able to have another world title match in the United States. And then they also tied it in where if a number of Hart Foundation members lost, Jimmy Anvil Neidhart would need to shave his trademark beard. And Neidhart never did shave his beard. But the main event of the show is so great, especially with the storyline of Shawn Michaels as the referee. You got Bret Hart against The Undertaker, a great main event. And aside from the Hart Foundation stuff, the opening contest is blue steel cage match. You know, the old school 1990s blue steel cage match, Mankind versus Triple H, and they tear it up. I mean, I'm not sure what they were doing starting this match off on the front of the show. I can't imagine that anyone else on the show was thrilled that a cage match was opening the show, but these guys delivered, man. Mankind, Triple H, and at the end, you have a little appearance from one of my favorites, Feud Love. Number 4, SummerSlam 2000. Tables, ladders, and chairs. Oh my. SummerSlam 2000, an absolutely loaded show right at the peak of the Attitude Era. You're getting the first ever tables, ladders, and chairs match here, featuring the Hardys, Dudleys, and Edge and Christian. You're getting a 2 out of 3 falls match between Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho. And you're getting a hardcore title match between Steve Blackman and Shane McMahon that featured one of the most death-defying drops ever, as Shane McMahon fell about 90 feet off of the top of the awning. And then Steve Blackman, to his credit, did do an elbow drop about 60 feet above and hits that on Shane. I'm sure these are exaggerated numbers, but you know what I mean. Just great falls there. They have just an incredible match. And then, of course, your main event. You have a really fun angle at the time between Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, and Kurt Angle that leads to a triple threat match for the title, The Rock defending against Triple H and Kurt Angle. Angle's only about 9 months into his run. He gets knocked out before the match happens due to an errant pedigree, where Triple H tries to pedigree him on the table, and the table collapses midway through, so Angle's knocked completely out cold, but he still pulls it off. This is just a really, really fun main event, and overall, just a kick-ass SummerSlam 2000. Number 3, SummerSlam 1998. The highway to hell, and WWE is on the highway to complete and utter dominance in Monday Night War. The summer of 1998, somebody who's a kid who grew up in New York City and was devastated that they couldn't be at this show live. SummerSlam 98, man, it has it all. Every single thing on this show means something. Every single thing on this show has something to be excited about. Your main event, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Undertaker, your 2 biggest stars of all time in the main event. Really, really great build to the main event between these two. I remember the Highway to Hell, and every bus that was rolling through Queens here had like Austin and Undertaker on there, and that iconic poster with them coming at each other with the Empire State Building and with the Statue of Liberty coming back and forth on each other with it. And on top of that, on the show, you also have probably one of the best ladder matches in SummerSlam history, right there with Michaelson, Razor Ramon from '95, Triple H, and The Rock. So not only are you getting your two biggest stars at the time, but you're getting your two biggest stars that were on the rise. You're even matches that just up and down the card, like you had D'Lo Brown versus Val Venus, the Oddities versus Kai and Tai, Jeff Jarrett versus X-Pac, where Jeff Jarrett gets his head shaved bald. Sable and a mystery partner go against Mark Marilyn Jacqueline, and her mystery partner ends up being Edge. There's so much on this show that I remember. Mick Foley's, I got 13 words for you. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? That made no sense. But then he has a handicap match against the New Age Outlaws, where Kane shows up in the dumpster and levels Mankind with a sledgehammer. Just really great stuff. The entire show, I just have such fond memories of it. And for a while, it was my number one, but two SummerSlams came along and outdid it. Number 2, SummerSlam 2013. This is a show that really holds a place for me because it actually is the first pay-per-view that I attended with my wife, and it's something that really just happened out of happenstance. Obviously, we're here in Queens, New York, and just in the summer of 2013, we were planning to go down to LA, our first trip down to LA. We had a trip planned first week of August. A couple things ended up coming up. Our trip gets postponed, and it gets postponed like right around the week of SummerSlam 2013. And not only that, but it's a SummerSlam that I was just super stoked for a number of reasons. It's like the perfect show for me as a wrestling fan. Daniel Bryan, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, in the main event against John Cena, getting his first real chance in a WWE pay-per-view main event, let alone a SummerSlam. And it was just awesome. I mean, I remember being at the Raw at the Barclays Center the night after Money in the Bank 2013, being there when John Cena got to choose his opponent for SummerSlam. And when he chose Daniel Bryan, the place just erupted, and it led to some really great hype and promo getting to the big package for SummerSlam 2013. On top of that, on this show, you also have CM Punk taking on Brock Lesnar in a match that I actually think was better than John Cena versus Daniel Bryan. You also had the debut of Bray Wyatt, his first match in a Ring of Fire match against the Demon Kane. This is also right in the middle of the Total Divas Revolution, and hey, you can chuckle or snicker to Total Divas, but honestly, they really introduced and ushered in an entire new genre of fans. They gave people a little bit of a backstage look as to how kind of the machine of WWE works, and so they were really hot at the time. Bringing also a fact, I think they also were big and instrumental in giving people a different side of John Cena and a different side of Daniel Bryan, really helping the Usos to become established WWE superstars and really get their niche as well. So a lot of SummerSlam 2013 I just absolutely love. So why isn't it number 1 on the list? Well, because it ends with a cash-in. 2 years after, they gave you the babyface champion you wanted, and then they gave you a cash-in. Did the same thing here. Triple H turns on Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton cashes in, and it's like a total party, and then like the cops show up. Like it was just devastating and heart-wrenching. But hey, that's wrestling, man. You're not always gonna get that happy ending you want. Number 1, SummerSlam 2002. My first ever WWE pay-per-view, and of course it's going to be number 1 on the list, and I think it holds up, damn it. Think about this. You have Rey Mysterio versus Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho versus Ric Flair, Eddie Guerrero versus Edge, and Chris Benoit versus RVD, and none of those are even your top 2 matches on the show. That's how loaded this show was. The show was banging from start to finish, and it featured a great opener in the aforementioned Kurt Angle versus Rey Mysterio, and a great main event, The Rock versus Brock Lesnar, a crowning achievement for Brock Lesnar, shoots up the ranks in WWE pretty much right away, debuts the day after WrestleMania 18 in 2002, wins the King of the Ring. Here he is main eventing SummerSlam 2002 with The Rock after great video packages, great hype. The magazine, I remember showing The Rock how he was training for it, how Brock Lesnar was training for it. It added realism to the match, and it was also surreal to see the entire Nassau Coliseum in unison turn on The Rock for going to Hollywood and doing movies and just solidly getting behind Brock Lesnar. And just awesome stuff, and a great moment after the show where The Rock cuts a promo and the crowd's just not having any of it, and finally he says, finally, The Rock, and the crowd's booing him, and he says, "Oh, it doesn't matter where The Rock's come back to." And it was the start and the tease, because he left after this for a bit, the tease of the Hollywood Rock character that everyone loves from early 2003, where he ends up coming back and really just took over as a heel. But with all of that said, that's not even my favorite part of the show, because on this show, it also featured Test versus The Undertaker. Baby, it was a great match. Okay, all right, I'm kidding. It also did feature the return of the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, 2 in-ring action, something I never thought was going to happen. He was out of the ring for over 4 years, and here he was coming back to take on Triple H, and it was like he never lost it. He was just awesome in the ring. He did his thing, and who knew that match would end up leading to 7.5 more years of HB Shizzle. It's a match that remains one of my favorites of all time and is my favorite match of my favorite SummerSlam ever. So there you have it. 31 years of SummerSlam ranked from absolute worst to all-around best. My favorite, the best, being SummerSlam 2002. Where will tonight's SummerSlam end up on that list? I guess only time will tell, but hopefully it'll rank as one of the better ones, because I'm excited and I'm ready for a good show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my countdown here. If you did, let me know in the comment section below. If there's something I got wrong, let me know, man. I want to know your favorite SummerSlams. I want to know your favorite memories. Let's all get excited together, as tonight it's SummerSlam 2019. It's officially SummerSlam Sunday, and I've had so much fun just remembering all these memories and talking about them with each and every one of you. Until next time, everybody, you have a good one.